Hi, I need to tell you something, and it may come as a bit of a shock, but I think you're old enough to handle it. Jon Stewart did not invent political satire. Now, I know it somehow feels like he did, but he didn't. I think it could be claimed that he sort of invented a new subgenre of political satire, the late night news punctuated with a few jokes, as opposed to the Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update segment, which has never been the same since Norm Macdonald did it, to be honest. Anyhow, and which was actually played really purely for just laughs. Now, under Jon Stewart, The Daily Show actually seemed to present the news kind of accurately and factually, only adding a joke after the seriousness of the story had been explained. At one time, it was reported that about 20% of young people got their news from Comedy Central. Now, since The Daily Show's success and increased viewership, a slew of copycat shows and show segments have sprung up, with the Daily Show correspondents going on to do their own shows, like Stephen Colbert, Sam B, John Oliver, and regular late-night talk show hosts like Seth Meyers doing a regular Daily Show-like segment, although, to be fair, it's probably more like an SNL Weekend Update segment, which Meyers actually did on SNL. Side point, pretty much all of these shows and others like them sprung up before the US election of 2016. Not necessarily because of it, but before. And I'm pretty sure that all of them were anti-Trump and pro-Hillary. But as hard as they could mock him, Donald Trump still got elected. So I have to ask, does satire ever change minds? I'm sure there are a few examples of people being convinced by a well-crafted joke, and there's possibly someone having watched Jon Stewart, an interview with Jon Stewart, have changed their mind on one thing or another. But there can't be many, surely. It seems to me, if you mock something another person believes in, then they just become defensive. You don't convince with mocking, you build walls. Really, really sturdy walls. Now, it can even make it harder to converse, assuming either side wants to converse. At best, it drives a divide between the two camps. The one that believes in the leader, the idea, the way, the other, the jester who belittles and tears down. Now, both Canada and the UK have a long tradition of political satire. In the 1980s, when I lived in the UK, one of my favourite shows was Spitting Image. It made fun of Margaret Thatcher, with her wearing a suit and tie and using the urinals in the men's room. It was funny. And yes, Prime Minister, which showed the hopelessness of the party political system as it struggled in a quagmire of overpowered civil servants. Those shows and others like them seem to make no difference at all. Yes, Prime Minister, rather than affect change in the system, actually became Margaret Thatcher's favourite TV show. And in Canada, the Royal Air Farce, This Hour's 22 Minutes, The Beaverton, to name a few, like an old dog. They are toothless, political satire that makes fun for entertainment, but makes no effort to affect change. But make no mistake, I'm still a fan of all the shows I've mentioned. Now, I'm not alone in this observation. Jon Stewart himself said that he felt the same way, possibly one of the reasons he retired from The Daily Show. But he also offers some insight as to why satire isn't very effective for driving change. He said this about the political figures he wanted to expose. We nailed you. And then what do we have to do at that point? We let you go. It's catch and release. Because we have to. Undercut it with a laugh. Here's my one moment. I'm going to, with a scalpel, go to the crux of your identity as a politician and expose it for everyone to see. And then I'm going to make a joke about it and walk away. And you'll laugh and it will humanize you. And it's not just that it humanizes the person with the destructive ideology. It humanizes the ideology itself. It elicits sympathy for the person and the idea that just got hit hard. And the sympathy then is transferred to their destructive ideology. So you see, once people see a politician as a human being, a person, their ideology then becomes transformed too, making their ideology and their ideas more human, more worthy of your sympathy, more worthy of your consideration, more worthy of your time. And likewise, personal insults have the same effect. How someone looks, how someone sounds, how someone walks, and so on. I mean, it's pointless because it takes the focus away from where the focus needs to be. So the only place the focus has to be in order to make an intelligent decision. A good public relations company can make a politician seem appealing, even Adolf Hitler, but to remove the human presented from the idea so we can judge the idea as an idea is essential to democracy. When we judge ideas, by the way, we judge the presenter of the ideas. A certain idiom relating to books and covers comes to mind. And if the ideology cannot stand by itself, if the idea cannot stand by itself, if the policy cannot stand by itself, if the legislation cannot stand by itself, then it isn't worth your time. So I come to the call to action. But it seems right to quote Jon Stewart for this, if I may. Comedy and satire are an expression. They are an artistic idea. They are not activism. It is not anything other than a painting, a song, a joke. None of these can change anything. Nothing that we ever did on The Daily Show meant anything compared to the people on the ground, in grassroots that work tirelessly, in anonymity, against all odds to do what's right, and have to do that facing headwinds that shouldn't be there in the first place. So I say, protest, shout, get mad, march, sit in, strike, complain, write letters, call your representative, join an action group, join a political party, whatever. It's time to activate. GOYAGI, get off your arse and get involved. Little Green Man. Hey, before you leave, don't forget to click the subscribe button and click the little notification icon-y thing at the bottom, because you don't want to miss out on what these guys are going to do to you next week.